Welcome to Faithful Doubt. My name is Jordan, and today we're going to talk about worship. Well, before we get into today's episode, I want to remind everyone to please like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. You can find our handles at the bottom of the screen. For Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, it is just Faithful Doubt. Pretty easy to go to. For Instagram, it's a little different, faithful_doubt. Follow us there. So also, if you would like to have a topic or question discussed in future videos, please email us at faithfuldoubtcg@gmail.com. Guys, I really want to encourage you to please promote the Facebook group. If you are watching this, you're not part of it, please jump onto Facebook, join us there. That is where a lot of conversations happen. And everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, you're welcome. And it's a safe place to talk about our doubts and fears. So hope you'll join us there. Now, we're continuing talking about these practices of the church. So the last 2 weeks, we talked about baptism and communion. And today I'm going to talk about worship. Because I think to a lot of people who have never been to church or you didn't grow up in the church, worship is weird. Like people, you just stand in the pews or in a room and everyone stares at a screen and sings songs to who? Like who are we singing the songs to? And for some churches, they can get very lively, I suppose would be the word. People are dancing in the aisles. For other churches, kind of look like zombies. I was raised in a Presbyterian church, and we were called the Frozen Chosen because no one does anything during worship. We kind of just stand there looking like we're in pain while we sing. So what is worship? And am I only talking about the physical act of singing and playing music on Sunday morning? For the episode, I want everyone to keep in mind when I'm talking about worship, I'm not only talking about the act of singing songs on Sunday morning. I will go over that aspect of worship, but singing songs on Sunday morning is just one part of worship. It is just one thing we do in our life to worship God. In fact, Jesus tells us that we should use all of our life, our body, mind, strength, soul, heart, to worship God. So everything we do should be to worship God. Now we fail on that because we're not perfect, but that is what we're striving for. Everything we do should be for the glory and the worship of God. So ultimately, everything we do is for God. What is worship? I'm going to define it for us. It comes from an old English word called worthship, and it literally means to give something worth, to attribute value, especially to a being or deity. So if you take that definition, to give something worth, you realize that you can worship anything. I could worship this laptop if I give it enough worth. I could worship myself if I give myself enough worth. I can worship this table. I can worship my wife. I can worship my parents. There's all sorts of different things or people that I can worship because I can attribute value to them and worth to them. So when we're talking about worship, we got to ask ourselves, what is it in my life that I'm worshiping? Because we all worship something. No one doesn't worship. And if you're not a Christian, you probably think you're not religious. And I don't worship anything, but you are. This is the question you must ask yourself. What am I worshiping in my own life? Is it my career? Is it money? Is it sex? Is it a relationship? What is it? What am I attributing all the worth in my life to? Or the majority of worth in my life to? And because if it's not God, if you're not attributing the majority or all of your worth in life to God, then you're worshiping something else. And I've talked about this before, idolatry and in the modern sense. What does that look like? And that's kind of what worship gets into. What do we idolize? What are we worshiping? And so worship in the church is ultimately for the glory of God. It's focused on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Worship involves learning the Bible, reading God's word. Uh, it involves edifying other Christians, teaching each other God's word, teaching each other what we have learned through our experience and through wisdom. Um, Worship is emphasizing grace, practicing grace and forgiveness. Uh, Talk about something that our culture and society is short on is forgiveness. The one thing I notice about our society and culture is just a total lack of forgiveness and grace. If someone said something horrible 10 years ago, there is no forgiveness for that. Uh, we immediately want to disown people. We immediately want to block people from our life if they don't agree with everything we think. If they say something that is hurtful to us or to someone else, we want to immediately get rid of that person. And part of Christianity is practicing forgiveness and grace, realizing that I'm no different than anyone else. I'm no better, and Jesus has ultimately forgiven me. Therefore, I should forgive others. So worship involves grace, and then we get into the physical act of worship that we do on Sunday morning in churches. So we have singing, playing of music, and liturgy. So what is the purpose of singing songs on Sunday morning? Well, throughout history, first of all, music is something that affects us emotionally, uh, very deeply. I think everyone loves music. I don't know of anyone that doesn't love music. Uh, and we see in the scriptures, we see times where uh, people dancing in the street, worshiping God with complete abandonment, um, to lift up praise to God. And so, singing songs to God is just a way for us to express emotionally what we feel about God, what we think of God, and lifting up His name and giving Him praise. And so, a lot of songs reflect the message of the gospel, and that's why we sing it. Now, there's an argument to be made over type of genre of music, what instruments you use. Some churches don't believe in instruments at all, and then we have a lot of churches that it's essentially a concert, with a light show and fog machines, and I'm not saying one way or another right now, if that's right or wrong, but we have opposite ends of that spectrum of what worship looks like. And so, should we participate in singing to God? Well, if you're a Christian, uh, God should affect you emotionally. He should affect you mentally, and it should affect your soul. So, when we come on Sunday mornings, a worship service is designed with music, with a sermon, with prayer, with offering, and with a challenge. And so, if you notice, all those things affect us, affect our mind, our heart, and our soul, or our will, if you want to call it that. So the songs are supposed to affect us, affect our heart emotionally. We are pouring out our emotional praise to God. The sermon affects our mind. We are reasoning with God's word and with each other, and we are learning how God speaks to us. And then prayer and offering and the challenge, those are all things that affect our soul and our will. We give money to the church, to God, ultimately, because we realize that all of our resources are God's anyway. God provides us with money, therefore we can give some back to Him if we truly worship Him. We take a challenge with us after the service to go and live more like Christ has called us to do so. So, a worship service is designed to affect all three of those things, but the singing, the music part of worship gets overemphasized. When people hear the word worship, that's what they think of. But that's just an aspect of worship. The entirety of worship is all those things. It's my whole life being given to God. It is my whole life being spent on loving Him, knowing Him better, and growing with Him and walking that path of discipleship. So, uh, when we take that definition to attribute worth or value to a deity or to a person or a thing, again, the question is, who is it in your life? What is it in your life that you're attributing worth to? And is it a problem if you don't attribute worth to God? Uh, I've talked about this before, but when you attribute worth to anything but God, eventually you're going to be disappointed. Eventually, you're going to be let down. You're going to be broken by that thing or person, because nothing is perfect other than God. And so, if I put my worship, if I put if I put worth in my wife, more worth in my wife than I do God, I'm worshiping her. Um, and when I do that, I'm going to find out really quickly that when my wife messes up or she hurts me, not physically, but emotionally, uh, or when she disappoints me, I'm going to find out real quick that I'm going to be broken, and it's going to hurt a lot more. When I put when I put more worth in my job over God, I'm going to find out real quick that I'm broken because my job's going to disappoint me. What if I'm fired? What if I'm fired from my job? What happens then? If I put more worth in money than I do in God, what happens when I don't make enough money? What happens when I lose all my money? If I put more worth in uh, sex or my identity, what than I do God, what's going to happen when someone doesn't call me by the right pronoun? What's going to happen when someone uh, doesn't return the same feelings that I have for them? What's going to happen when someone rejects me or my identity or what I define myself by? What's going to happen? I'm going to be broken, and I'm going to panic. And so this is the whole point, that God is the only one that we should be putting all of our worth in, because He defines us. He will never fail us. He will never disappoint you. He's always going to love you no matter what you do. If you fail, if you screw up, if you become the richest person in the world, God's going to love you no matter what. It doesn't not the things of this world do not matter in God's eyes. What matters is that He created you, He loves you for who you are, and He designed you with a purpose. And so put all of your worth in God and worship Him with your whole life, with your body, with your mind, and your soul. And singing is just one aspect of that kind of worship. And so as Christians, as a church, when we gather on Sunday morning, this is what we're doing. We're practicing that worship of all three, of heart, mind, and soul. This is what worship is. If you have things to add on to that, let me know. If you want to push back on something, let me know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. So this has been a fun topic to talk about. Next week, we're going to get into our final practice, which is prayer. So I'm looking forward to that. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.